And so this morning, I'm not going to take too much time, but I want to preach a message that I've been developing this week. I thought I'd probably preach it in the future, but God's like, nah, pull the trigger, let's do it now. While it's hot off the press. And if you want a title for the message this morning, it's called Bigger Than Me. Bigger Than Me. All right, that's my title for this message, because everything that we do has got to be bigger than us. If you're the biggest thing in your world right now, there's a problem. All right, you're in the way. If you are the biggest thing and God is not bigger than you in your world right now, you've got a problem. Actually, I would say you've got major problems. All right, because when you're the biggest picture or the biggest thing in your world, then your whole world revolves around you. And it's actually a dangerous place to be in. This has been one week for the books, I would have to say. When you think of all the things that could happen in your lifetime and they all decide they want to happen in 1 week. That's sort of what I felt like this week was looking like for me. Let me paint a picture of what the week from, say, 2 Fridays ago is. Youth had a normal youth night here at church, but 8 people gave their lives to Jesus at youth on a Friday. That was 2 Fridays ago. All right. And then the following Sunday, which is last Sunday, we had Pastor Ivan here and we did the Chosen event. And 15 people in our service gave their lives to Jesus. But while that was going on in here, Teddy was also running kids upstairs and they were talking about salvation. They were talking about receiving Jesus as well. And 13 of our children received Jesus into their life. So we're looking at 35 odd of people giving their lives to Jesus just last weekend in this building. And so I start celebrating. I've got to skip in my step on Monday morning going, come on, man, like this is awesome. You know, we're living in it. I don't know if you've got prayers that, come on, God, send revival. Wake the heck up. Revival is happening right now. Revival is happening, and we can blink and miss it if we're looking at the wrong things. But actually, all these good things, we started Alpha last week as well on Sunday night, which was awesome. If you still want to come along. But we had 36 people at Alpha as well. And, you know, that's 36 more people learning the foundations of their faith, which is awesome. Then we had team night and we just had over 60 people out at team night, which was awesome. And so I'm on cloud 9. Seriously, I'm going, man, God, like these are the prayers that we prayed 7 years ago when we first got here. We're starting to walk in the steps of the prayers we prayed back then. Like that's how my week started. All right? And then I'm just going to show you a photo of what you're sitting on right now, of this space. If you put that photo of the auditorium. So this is literally the water that was in this place on Wednesday morning. Overflow. We have had all the biblical jokes in the world, so let me know. Let me tell you, all the craziness of the scenario that we walked into Monday morning. So we had Pastor Steve Jaffers here from Equippers in North Shore. He spoke at team night, which was phenomenal, man. He great challenge. But also, I was at breakfast with him that morning, and then Brigitte came in early. She was here about 8 o'clock or something. She gives me a call. She's like, hey, just letting you know, the church is flooded. And I'm like, what kind of flood? Like, what are we talking here? Because we've had, like, rain and things like that. But I'm like, there's no rain. There's not been no rain. And so, yeah, she's like, there's a pipe that burst in the back kitchen back toilets out there. And there's a lot of water coming out. And so I quit breakfast and was just, like, on my way here to come in. I didn't realize I needed gumboots walking into the church building when I came in. And so we managed to turn off the water and just trying to gather ourselves thinking, what do we do? Like, you know, we need to blow up raft to get to the other side of the auditorium. But in the midst of this chaos, like we hear of great miracles that have already taken place. Like I would call them miraculous, like angelic moments for Brigitte actually and her mum run a sort of, is it early childhood? Home-based care? child play therapy. They were hiring out the building, so they were actually working in here, and they had all their play toys everywhere, which all the ladies had just accumulated over time, and these are all precious to them. And because we had team night, they had to put all of that stuff away, which was such a pain, I tell you, to have to take everything away for a team night and then bring it back in the morning. But little did we know that that was going to happen overnight, that the auditorium was going to look like that, and all of their toys and all of the things that they had accumulated would have been soaking wet. And so one of the ladies was the only one that left her stuff in the corner over there, which is the corner of the building that didn't get any water. So Brigitte was telling us this morning that it was like the angels would probably like just hold up, like blowing the, just holding the water off. And I think about those moments and I think, oh man, I can just find myself in a pity party and trying to figure it out. But I can actually look at the details and the bigger picture of what God is doing. And if we do get caught up in ourselves, then it kind of sucks. It kind of is hard to sit in that moment where all you're thinking is about, oh man, I'm just down right now. I had all the reasons to get down, but I just started to think like, okay, now the church is flooded. Yeah, okay, we'll deal with that. And then we went through insurance. We called ChemDry. They came. As the guy walked in, he was like, I didn't know I needed my gumboots, And Nev was like, oh, just a baptism went wrong, But that's the joy of the Lord in the midst of trials. In the midst of the chaos, you should have seen our leaders chat, seriously. All the serious people were probably like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But there was like, yeah, we need to build an ark, we need to hire the Great Lakes Center. And then Austin said, oh, it looks like the Great Lakes Center. But that's the joy of the Lord when you've got a different perspective. All right, when you can change things, you can change, then get involved. If you can't change anything, don't get involved. If they're outside of your control, then we got to trust God in these situations. And then we go to Friday night. All right, I then pick up a whole bunch of massive kids, and we end up at Drop Zone to find out that Drop Zone was actually overbooked. All right, and so we've got like 20-something kids. 4 car loads, van loads of kids at Drop Zone ready for the trampoline park to go, sorry, we're booked out, you can't come in. And so I'm like, oh, what do we do? Elisa comes up with a plan. We get back here to put a movie on, some pizzas, and we still had a good time. But I'm sitting in my car, everyone left, and then I'm ordering the pizzas, which Vera went to pick them up, and I went to reverse out, and my car starts shaking like crazy. And I've got six massive kids in the car, so I'm like, oh no, what's going on with the car? Put in drive, and it starts driving normal, so I'm like, cool, as long as I get to church, we'll be sweet. So I get around by 2 Mile Bay Sailing Club, and then it starts sort of giving a little jolts, and I'm like, oh, this is not good. The kids are just having the time of their life in the car because they have no idea what's happening. And I pull over, and then you get all why are we here? Why are we stopping here? Why all the kids? I'm like, just shush, There's a reason why we're stopping, And then I was just like, and then the car just wouldn't go into park or reverse. It just wouldn't go anywhere. And so I'm pretty sure the transmission's blown on our personal vehicle. But in the midst of that, it wasn't just like burst into tears and try and figure out. It was like, Tere, once you drop those kids off, can you come back and pick these kids up? I called Craig, and he started, I'm on my way. And, all of these things that I can't control is just like, okay, God, you're just going to have to sort this out. Like, I can't control any of that. And so in the midst of all the great things that are happening, I could label this as the week from hell. Like, I'm glad that I've got positivity as one of my top strengths, all right? I seem to stay positive in a whole lot of stuff. Unless you're a real negative person, then get out of my face. But something in me that probably was I learned from my parents is that you can't control circumstances and situations, then just give it to God. If you can't control it, just give it to God. And I've got to realize that there's things out there that are bigger than me. And so that's why I want to say today in this sermon is bigger than me. What if this situation is bigger than me, which it probably is? What situation are you in right now that just seems bigger than you? and you don't know how to come up with the funds, you don't know how to figure it out, give it to God. That's the only solution. Give it to God. I heard once someone said prayer doesn't pay the bills. Well, what? Because when you're in that situation, that's what you feel. Prayer is not enough. I need to do so many other things to try and figure this out. No, prayer is enough. Prayer is the first port of call. Prayer is where we want to get to. And so last week we started our Others series, and today I want to continue that sort of topic around others. But I think everything, when they hit all at once, it's we've got to hold on to God in those moments. Right? You might have the best week of your life or the worst week of your life. I don't know where you're at right now, but today, if you get anything out of it, trust God. Just trust God. Trust God in the midst of everything. And I've got 3 points for us this morning just around other people and how situations can come against us, but they're actually a setup for God. You know, what seems like a setback for me could be a setup for someone else to see Jesus through me. What looks like a setback for you could actually be a setup for someone else. And oftentimes if we are the biggest thing in our picture, we will only see the setback. We will never see the setup that God is doing for other people to experience Jesus. You know, one of my good friends, Benjamin Greenwood, he got saved at his mate's funeral. 17-year-old kid died at lunchtime at Mags. He literally had a cardiac arrest and passed away on the school field. Ben was not saved at all. Went to the funeral, they preached the gospel, he got saved. And so what's a setback, and when we get caught up in what looks like death, actually is an opportunity for someone else, and it's a setup in God for someone else to see the benefit. And so yes, you might be going through it right now, but this could be the greatest setup for someone else. I look at Ben's life now, and he's one of the greatest communicators in New Zealand in schools, and he goes around schools and he speaks to young people. And he's seen many, many young people in our nation saved, but he got saved at a funeral. And I think about things like that, and I've got to think about the bigger picture of what God is doing. Yes, there's grieving. Yes, there's mourning. Don't blow it off and just have a laugh. But actually, we've got to think about the setup that God is doing in the bigger picture. We can get caught up and put ourselves in the center, and we'll miss the opportunities that God is giving us. In Philippians chapter 2, verse 3 and 4, it says, "Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others, but be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. Don't look out only for your own interests, but take an interest in others too." You know, so don't be selfish. Don't just always put yourself in the center of everything, every scenario, every play that you're going to go out into, but actually allow yourself to think about the people around you. Because I've found in situations that I've been going through that others are benefiting even when I don't feel like I'm benefiting. And if I'm only going to engage in this scenario if it benefits me, then I'll miss opportunities for other people. Sometimes we don't engage in a conversation. Sometimes we don't engage in something because why would I? It's only going to benefit them and it's not going to benefit me. But what would the world look like if we were that kind of Christian? That we put other people in front of ourselves and we walked that out. Instead of asking, why me? We can ask, who can I bless through this? Why is this happening to me, God? God, who are you blessing out of this? Like, can you shed some light on this situation? Because I'm losing my mind right now. This is hard, but God, who are you blessing in this? When I hear little stories of the toys being moved, I think, oh, okay, like God is still in the midst of this situation. The ChemDry guys just literally vacuumed all the water out. All right. After this, we've got to pull the chairs out, and we've got the walls are still wet. All right. So it's not a complete miracle we're sitting in right now, Because I was genuinely freaking out. Like, where are we going to do church this week? Where are we going to do church? Like, I was planning on just getting everyone to turn up and then sending you to go knock on doors, and pray for healing and, ask people in need in our community. Yeah, you're all freaking out like, oh, man. But why would we freak out when that was an opportunity? Like, we get caught up in this is church. I come here, park in the same spot, hopefully. I sit in the same seat, hopefully. God forbid anyone who sits in that seat, because that's mine. But why is it so scary to then live on mission where God is calling you out to reach the people around you? I would say this because you feel like you don't have it all together. None of us have it all together. None of us have it all together. Gandhi actually said this, Mahatma Gandhi said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Albert Einstein said, only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile. Come on, these are pretty incredible people. I look at the life of Gandhi, I look at the life of Mother Teresa, and I look at people like that who have definitely put others in front of their own needs, their own safety. They've literally set their lives up for other people. And I realize that problems can point us to people. First point, problems can point us to people. I've got problems just as you got problems, but they can actually point us to conversations with people that we didn't realize we needed to have. And so if you've got lots of problems, there's probably lots of people behind those problems that you need to have conversations with. Real conversations. Because there's lots of things happening in the world right now that are calling people home to church. There is chaos happening, but there's also such an amazing sense of what God is doing across the world. Last week, this place was full. It was overflowing full. We had to put more chairs out. The week before that, it was full. But come on, we want to create space for people that they feel like they've got a refuge. They've got questions. Come on, we got to be the people that have the answers. But you don't have to come up with the answer. The Holy Spirit will speak through you or to you the answers of people around you. And so my first point this morning is that problems can point us to people. And that setback could be a setup for someone else. And so let's look for those spaces. The second point is our response speaks louder than our situation. Our response needs to speak louder than the situation. Come on, you might be loud about your situation, but what's your response? Come on, is it faith-filled? Are you speaking out faith and declaring, and I laid hands on my car and was like, God, if this is your will, kill it. But if it's your will, please revive this thing from the dead because I need the car. I was freezing that afternoon too. I was dressed for the trampoline park. I had to walk halfway across town, and then I called Teddy. I was like, yo, it's freezing. Come pick me up too. Because I'm a runner, right? I was going to run to church, and I looked down. I only had Crocs on. And my pink drop zone socks. Small problems. Small problems. But I think our response definitely speaks louder than our situation. It has to be. It has to speak louder than the situation you're going through. When you get to work on Monday morning, what are they hearing out of your mouth? Oh, man, another weekend. Oh, the car broke down. Oh, man, the church flooded. Oh, man, What are they hearing out your mouth? If you're a faith-filled believer of Christ, what are they hearing out your mouth? Oh, yeah, baptism went wrong. Like, come on, there's a joy about it because it's outside of our control. It catches people in the world off guard because they're used to hearing, oh, the car broke down. If you've got a different perspective, come on, that's a different language to them. How have you got so much joy in the midst of your trial? Come on, James talks about it, considering it pure joy. When your car breaks down and the church floods and the drop zone is booked out, consider it joy, my friends. There's a great scripture on paper, right? Until you have to walk through it. But I reckon we could be a church that doesn't just read the Bible with words on a paper. We could live it out. We could walk this thing into action. That we could be the most filled with joy people in the midst of our chaos, in the midst of our drama. I reckon if we got people up here to share what their hardest thing they're going through right now, we would all want to go home. Because people going through some pretty serious things. And I'm not doing church just to high five you on the way out going, hey, hope you survive this week too. Like, no, we need to stand in faith together to believe that, yes, things are going to happen, but we've got to find the joy in the midst of the drama so that we can walk with our heads held up because, man, this material stuff, it doesn't matter. We're not going to take it to heaven. Problems can point us to people, but our response speaks louder than our situation. I reckon people around us are watching how we handle our hard times. They don't care about you when everything's going together. They're knocking at your door when your life's falling apart. That's when they want to know if what you believe is real. How many of us crumble under the situations and we don't get to be the testimony that God wants us to be to the people around us? These aren't the people you're sitting next to now. These are the ones that are like, I told you your Jesus ain't real because you don't even believe it. That's harsh. When we're in that situation, come on, if we stay hopeful, we stay faithful, we stay generous, come on, that's when they see Jesus in us. When you're generous and you don't have anything, that was my grandma. My grandma was a missionary in China. And my uncle who I worked for, my boss, he hated the church. Why? Because my grandma gave away everything she had. They would always have people in their house and they would give them their last loaf of bread and they would feed them. And my uncle got so bitter as a young kid because he only saw the lack. He only saw what we don't have instead of actually the blessing it is to bless other people. And my grandma lived a different life. She was the most generous person. She would like, because back in those days, they didn't have FPOS and all that sort of stuff. They would just have the money. And so she would take the money to church and tithe in. And my uncle got so bitter because he'd be like, why are you giving to the pastors? They've got a mansion. Their kids have got like motorbikes and we're living in poor. We're living in poverty. Why is that the level? And I remember having this conversation at work with my uncle. And I was, man, sorry you had to go through that. Because he didn't want me to come pastor the church here. He actually was so bitter about church that he wanted me to stay in Auckland and run the company. But actually I had to really dig deep in my own conviction of what God was calling me to. Because I'll tell you, man, he gave me a whole lot of options of this is what you can get if you stay. And it was very appealing. He's like, I couldn't buy you a house, but I could give you a deposit in Auckland. That's massive. He said, how much money does the church down here need so I can keep you in Auckland? That's the level of my uncle trying to keep me out of the call that God had for my life because of an experience that he had growing up. And my prayer for my uncle is that he's going to come to know the truth. You know, when he was a young boy, he was on the hill in his pram above a busy road, and he was in the pram and he rolled down there across the road when there was no cars at all, and he hit the fence and stopped and stayed in the pram. And I keep reminding him when I was at work, come on, that's got to be the hand of God on your life. Because my grandma would speak that over him, which he would be like, no, I'm not listening. Come on, who's spoken over your life the good things of God and you've just decided, no, I'm not going to do that because of a bitterness or a situation that's happened in you? and has stopped you from encouraging others, or stopped you from even engaging in the mission that God has for you. Because there's so much out there, and there's so many opportunities that we miss because of the bitterness in our heart or disappointment. That's why I say our response, it speaks louder than our situation. Big or small your situation, come on, let your response speak loud, speak volumes in that space. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 8 to 11, it says, we are pressed on every side by troubles, but we are not crushed. We are perplexed, but not driven to despair. We are hunted down, but never abandoned by God. We get knocked down, but we are not destroyed. Through suffering, our bodies continue to share in the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be seen in our bodies. Verse 11, yes, we live under constant danger of death because we serve Jesus, so that the life of Jesus will be evident in our dying bodies. Come on, everything we do is speaking volumes to people around us. You might be pressed, but you're not crushed right now. If you've still got breath in your lungs, God hasn't finished with you yet. Come on, there's more to do. There's more to continue to do, even in the midst of chaos, that we may be pressed, but we're not crushed. Come on, you can break my car, but you won't break my spirit. Come on, you can flood the church, but I'm believing for a greater flood in the spirit. Come on, there's a different response when you're living from a kingdom perspective, a different mentality, because my hope is in Jesus, not my car. My hope is in Jesus, and that's the evidence. That's the kind of faith that we need that will inspire other people. You can still shed tears, but every tear God's going to catch. You find they will turn from tears of despair to tears of joy. You start to see what God is actually doing on the outset. And so firstly, problems can point us to people. Secondly, our response has got to speak louder than our situation. And thirdly, God's plan is bigger than my disruption. I felt disrupted this week. Have you ever had interruption when you've gone to leave the house and someone says, hey, I'm just here for a coffee? Like, well, I'm just heading out. That's an interruption. Because you've got a choice to make. Like, do I do the errand that I was going to do, or I've always wanted to have coffee with you anyway? And so you're having to make these spaces and these decisions in your life. But what we see as disruption, God can actually use as a redirection. He can redirect what the enemy actually meant for evil. He can redirect it and it becomes good. The question is, are you around long enough to see the good? Because a lot of us just give up. We get to what the enemy meant for evil, and we stay in the meant for evil. We stay in that mentality, but actually we've got to stay around long enough for God to turn it around to be good. We've got to be in the longevity, and God's calling us through into that. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. It says, and we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose. Come on, that's everything. Everyone say everything. That's everything. When we read scripture and it says everything, God didn't leave anything out. God causes everything for the good. Come on, it's going to work out. Come on, if there's something that you catch today, God, it's going to work out. God's got it under control. You might not have it under control, but God does. If He can invade your world and be a part of your world while the whole earth is still spinning and gravity is still holding us to this earth, then I'm pretty sure He can sort your situation. Nothing is impossible for God. Come on, they work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose for them. Even when things fall apart, God is at work. Come on, even when things are falling apart for you, God's drawing other people in. I look at the life of Charlie Kirk and what happened there and how many people are actually being drawn in now. Like, that's the reality. Something actually needs to break. Something needs to die. A seed needs to die before it can live. It's a crazy world that we live in. And don't switch off. Come on, God is doing something significant right now in the world. And it's not just needing pastors to have a voice. It's every single person. Come on, in your workplace, in your family, in the schools. Come on, there's a lot of chaos that's going on in the world right now that we just allow. But actually, we've got to have a voice. We've got to take the power back. What the enemy is meaning for evil right now, it seems like he's succeeding. But I'm saying the day is coming, the hour is coming where now God is turning things around for good. He's turning it around. There's situations in our church where you've been under pressure for so many years, and I must say, God is turning it around right now. This is now the hour that God is turning it around. Hold on. Will you hold on? God never said that the journey would be easy. But He did say that the arrival would be worthwhile. The journey is going to be hard. But the destination we end up, it's going to be worth it. If you just bunker down, if you just hold on to the rock, don't build your life on sand because it's just going to get knocked over. No, build your life on the revelation, the foundation of Christ. Because that's what's going to hold you down when the storms come, when chaos and turmoil come. And so come on, let's stand to our feet this morning. I want to tell you this morning, yes, it's been one of those weeks for me. People like, you want to give up yet? Oh, that was like 7 years ago I wanted to give up. Why? Because pursuing the call of God is hard work. There's some of you that are just trying to stumble into the call of God. No, you have to make a conscious decision every day to walk in the purpose of God. If you don't, you'll wander somewhere else. And you'll be bitter about everyone else because they're doing what God's called them to. And you just didn't make the right decisions to get where God was calling you to. Why? Because it gets hard. There's going to be hard situations. There are hard situations going on right now. But God is in control. God is on the throne. He's all powerful. He's all knowing. In Alpha tonight, we're going to be talking about who is Jesus. We're going to be finding out who the person of Jesus is. And if you don't know that, if you can't, I say you don't know something until you can teach it to someone else. There's one thing about knowing stuff for yourself. There's a whole nother area of actually being able to teach your kids, being able to teach people underneath you, being able to teach people that you just meet on the street. What has God called you to? Again, problems that you're facing right now, they can point you to the people around you. Secondly, our response speaks louder than our situation. Thirdly, God's plan is bigger than my disruption. God is in the business of redirection. Come on, right at the beginning, God had created this incredible earth that we live in now. He created Adam for relationship with Him. And sin entered the world through disobedience. And sin is simply separating us from the love of God. when we choose to live our own way, it separates us from a life that God intended us to live in relationship with Him. And God's plan is so much bigger than that scenario in that moment, that He came up with a plan of redirection called His Son Jesus. To be born like you and I, to live on this earth for 30 years, developing what God had intended for Him, to then step into His public ministry where He started to see miracles happen, where blind eyes started to see, lame legs started to walk. He started to see those things for 3 years, but the people around Him crucified Him. The religious people of the day, they crucified Him on a cross because they didn't believe who He was. And so God had a plan the whole time, that what the enemy meant for evil, God turned it around, and He's still turning it around. And in your situation, He can still turn it around.